So far, my impressions of Arlong Park have been nothing short but of glowing. This is because the arc is able to blend so many elements from previous ones, which makes Arlong serve as a sort of mini culmination for Nami's character and the series. So let's jump in, and remember that by becoming a patron, you will get access to my next 3 One Piece videos before everyone else does on YouTube. The next 3 of which that are available currently on Patreon is Loguetown, Reverse Mountain, and Whiskey Peak. Links in description and pinned comment below. Ever since Nami's mother was killed, we learned that she, for the last 8 years, has done everything alone because she never wanted to see anyone be killed like her mother was by Arlong. And as well, to make that decision at the age of 10 no less is one that had to have been extremely difficult to do, especially to then keep her word for nearly 10 years as well. That in of itself deserves a lot of credit. This also shines a massive light on the Straw Hats and what their mingling is doing currently. Essentially, Nami's plans are, in a sense, being ruined because the Straw Hats are directly involving themselves in Arlong's affairs, putting themselves in harm's way, and as we saw in Barati, Nami clearly cares a great deal about them all. So to her, the only way to save them, to save her village, and to save herself, is to do what she did by cutting ties with them. But most importantly, by telling people they're her friends, it sows a seed of doubt within Arlong, and thus is why she's being tested pretty much constantly throughout this entire arc by him. As Nojiko is telling the Straw Hats of Nami's reasonings, Nami is contemplating herself what has gone up to this point, particularly how she initially told Nojiko she would be getting the 100 million belly needed by becoming a pirate thief, and how she got her first 1 million belly, and the injuries sustained from it. As she's reminiscing, only needing 7 million belly left at this current point, we see some amazing art of her in Nojiko's house with litter strewn about and things shattered. I like this because it's a brilliant way to show how Nami's mental state as of this moment is a mess. Though, despite herself clearly falling apart at the seams, Nami is still focused. She's so close to freeing everyone from the village, which prompts a smile from her. And you can tell from these panels that the immense weight and stress this is giving Nami is taking its toll, little by little. This brings us to Ginzo, who is with a bunch of corrupt marines, namely Captain Nezumi. Confronts Nami at her place while Luffy watches on. Nezumi has heard Nami is a little bit of a thief, and thus ruins Nami's plans by proposing that since her goods were stolen, that she give it all that she has earned to the government so that they can return it to its owner. So Nezumi orders a search of Nami's house, to which Nami does not allow, and good for her. Then she questions Nezumi for punishing her, a petty thief, while they knowingly let Arlong have his way with the island and its inhabitants. Though, they don't listen, and they are then ordered to dig up Belmir's garden, prompting Nami to defend herself. All I've got to say about this is, Nezumi is a bitch. This guy is basically corrupted like any other marine on the island by Arlong, and he's clearly doing this because Arlong told them to do it. Why? Who knows? But I think that Arlong keeping his word about the 100 million belly is also clearly a lie. And if that is the case, then I fully believe Arlong sent Nezumi. Though, in a surprising twist, it's Ginzo who yells at Nami that this money of hers is for the people of the village. Turns out that once upon a time, Ginzo and the entire village forced Nojiko into telling them what Nami was doing. And since then has known Nami was out earning the village's freedom. So they never told her because they didn't want her to stay if she decided one day to run from it all, which is honestly pretty amazing of them. They were so supportive of Nami that they wouldn't mind if she decided to cut bait and ditch. This also shows the grim situation they're in, but as well the empathy of the villagers and Ginzo to be understanding of that. In other words, these are good people. Slowly but surely, my suspicions do come clear. Turns out that Nezumi is indeed sent by Arlong and is working for him. This enrages Nami, who has one of the best reaction faces I've seen. I mean, look at that. The only thing better than that is this. Look at those stubby, stupidly square legs. Those hands that make you want to scream, "Damn it, CJ! All you had to do was follow the damn train!" That facial expression that subtly implies he's DTF, but not really. It's joke. in the chest that could be hiding six-pack abs or the hottest dad bod this side of the Grand Line. He's perfect! Just like my wife, Nami. Besides that, Nezumi decides to shoot Nojiko and Ginzo, which is then revealed, hey, Luffy has been watching the entire time. So, being the main character of One Piece, the ultimate protagonist, he does what every protagonist ever does in a situation like this and walks over to Nami and says, hey. I'm not making that up either. Dude has straight up crackhead energy. So, Nami grabs him by the collar, tells him to GTFO as she GTFOs to Arlong in a mad dash. Then there she confronts Arlong, but to no avail, she is stonewalled. Realizing that her plans have been ruined, she recalls what Ginzo said about running away, then proceeds to run from Arlong in tears. All the while, Ginzo starts to rally the people of the village, realizing that fighting their battle of endurance has failed. The only thing left to do is mobilize and die fighting Arlong and his pirates. This is when Nami shows up, gasping for breath and putting on a fake smile to reassure the villagers that it's okay. All the while, Arlong reveals he never plans to let her go, that is, until she makes a map of every ocean, which will take decades. And I gotta say, Arlong, you a bitch. You're an evil smart bitch, but you're still a bitch. As for Nami, the villagers realize all of the efforts that she's put in for them, and so at this moment, they cannot convince them. Even putting a knife on them will do nothing. They're dead set on going through with a war against Arlong. I also love this moment because as Ginzo was saying this, he grabs Nami in a hug, and even when she draws a blade, he grabs onto it, signifying that Nami's threat rings hollow at this moment. It nearly brings a tear to my eye because it's this moment where nothing Nami can do will change anything. Everything she's tried has failed because the game she was playing from the beginning was rigged. Arlong never was going to honor his deal with Nami, and even so, Nami was never going to be let free anyways. The villagers, Ginzo, Nojiko, they didn't want this. They all knew she had a dream to one day chart a map of the world, and that Arlong was abusing this fact to keep her from straying from them. Filled with anguish and with tears streaming down her face, she takes her blade and damns Arlong to hell as she repeatedly stabs the tattoo symbolizing her affinity to Arlong's pirate crew. The tattoo at this point serves more as a brand to remind Nami how powerless she is and how much control Arlong has over her life. But Luffy stops her. And while Nami tells her to get out and leave, throwing dirt at him because he doesn't understand anything, Luffy simply agrees. Yeah, he doesn't know anything, he says. And then quite possibly one of the most beautiful moments in One Piece I've seen so far, Nami turns her head at Luffy and with tears streaming down her face, asks Luffy to help her. And to put the proverbial cherry on top, Luffy takes his hat and places it on her head, yelling out that of course he will help Nami, and she looks over to see all of her friends are there to support her in her time of need. Damn, you guys. I'm sort of at a loss for words. So, let me explain. Of course, with words. Just look at this stubby legs. His stocky, stubby... Oh, wait, wrong line. So, this moment is the actual culmination of Nami's character I've been talking about the past two videos. Nami, powerless, can only do one thing. And it's the one thing she never wanted to do again. Ask for help. From the time she was 10, she believed that she could get the 100 million belly alone, and by doing so, she would be helping protect others from Arlong as well. But at this point in the story, she's done all that she could, and by calling upon the help of Luffy, she breaks down the walls that she's upheld for so long. It's a desperate cry for help from Nami, because she's done it all, but even her best wasn't enough. That is, it wasn't enough alone. By asking Luffy for help, she's only done something to help herself. Something she could have done from the very beginning, because now with Luffy's help, she's accepted her helplessness in this situation and that she needs her friends to bail her out. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. It may hurt your pride or ego to do so, but I'd rather hurt pride over anything else because that can recover. The lives of the villagers, they cannot. All she had to do from the very beginning was ask. The Straw Hats then head straight to Arlong, as Luffy barges in, knocks out a couple of jobbers, and then hits Arlong with a massive and stretchy right, and then all he says is, "How dare you make my navigator cry?" "Ooh, my boy Luffy, that's my boy!" Arlong's men then attack, but the Straw Hats defeat them all, and while this is happening, in the village, Johnny and Yosaku join them to help fight the villagers, and the reason is just because Arlong made Nami cry, and they dare not make Sister Nami cry. But Arlong has a few tricks yet, and as they call upon Momu, who Arlong then bullies Momu into fighting against as well, Luffy, yeah, he just thinks they're a bunch of time wasters and plants his feet literally inside the ground. He uses Gomu Gomu Pinwheel to spin Momu, poor Momu, until he launches him back into the ocean. Poor Momu. So, in response, Hotchan, the dude I perceive to be chill, is actually just dumb and inks Luffy, blinding him, trying his best to make Luffy become Mr. Popo and throws a chunk of wall at him. Impressive! Though Sanji is able to simply do an equally impressive kick to destroy the wall before it ever hits Luffy. So as Usopp takes Luffy to get out of dodge, he stretches his legs and at some point loses his grip, which launches him into Smek, and that guy and takes him out. We'll call that one a Gomu Gomu freak you, buddy. This causes Smek to get back up and chase after Usopp, but not before using Flame Star, which does nothing. Good job, Usopp! More importantly, Luffy begins his battle with Arlong, starting off with a punch, but Arlong simply rips Luffy's ground around him and throws him into the ocean, giving him a proper mob boss death, swimming with the fishes. So now it's a race against the clock. They must try their quickest to save Luffy because eventually he will drown. Zoro and Sanji take on Arlong's men as well, as they are desperately trying to defeat their enemies as quickly as they possibly can. Eventually, Zoro is able to take out Hotchan, which leads to him revealing that he is the best swordsman among the fishmen. So he starts his battle by using Toko Ashi Kiken. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which Zoro promptly counters with Toru Nagashi. But Hotchan uses Six Sword style octopus pot stance, which he quickly follows up with the New Year's octopus opener, which absolutely sounds like something Yamcha would use in Budokai on the PS2. But even after that, he follows up with Body Slam, launching him into the air, giving him another opportunity to use a deadly move. This time, Six Sword style ultimate technique, Six Sword Waltz, the fifth sequel to Gundam Waltz. But Zoro is proving to be one tough cookie as Hotchan uses Six Sword style octopus pot stance, but it's not legal in that state, so Zoro blocks it ever so smoothly and eventually breaks his sword altogether. Now all that's left is for Zoro to use Fubuki's sister and finish off Hotchan. What a fantastic fight! This honestly was just super fun because, you know, as soon as he said he was the best swordsman, Zoro just had to say something about that. This leads to an amazingly hilarious moment. Sanji dives into the sea to help Nojiko and Ginzo, who are trying to free Luffy, which Nojiko hilariously figures out that all she has to do is drag Luffy's head up to the surface for him to get air. Not gonna lie, I like the cleverness of this. Nojiko kinda cool. But while Sanji is diving down, he is hit in the back by Fish Danzig using his fish karate style of moveset. There are a bunch of really cool moves here, like the high-level exploding palm, but Sanji ultimately uses his smarts by blocking Danzig's gills, causing him to yell out, "Mother!" which allows Sanji to get some air and breathe. So Sanji finishes him off on land with a plethora of shots, ending it with the mutton shot and finishing it off with a cool one-liner. "Do you want any desserts?" To which all the ladies said, "Me, yes, pick me." Though while this happens, Usopp, dealing with Smek, is able to fake his death using ketchup, and for a moment contemplates being a coward here, but he actually goes against that and gets up facing Smek. He then tries to use Flamestar, but Smek blocks it, leading to Usopp to use Usopp Rubber Band, seemingly vanishing before he follows up with Certain Kill Lead Star, which is him just throwing a wine bottle at Smek. To retaliate, he swallows up a bunch of water and uses Water Cannon, eliminates a large section of the forest, followed up with 100-shot water gun, peppering the area like a minigun. So Usopp counters with Certain Kill Flame Star, and you know it works this time because keyword certain was in the title of this move. After that, we see Nami, who, might I add, looks absolutely fantastic in Luffy's straw hat. She bandages herself up and is on her way to help the Straw Hats in their battle with Arlong, as Nami arrives to kill Arlong, but he will spare her if she answers. Is she on his side or theirs? Realizing how tough of a question that is, she answers promptly, asking the people of the village to die along with her. Not taking the easy way out and going out fighting. Hell yeah! While they all fight, they eventually free Luffy from the bottom of the sea, which launches him up in the air. Now, the real battle begins as Luffy rains down blow after blow on Arlong, from Gomu Gomu Bell all the way to Gomu Gomu Gatling Gun. Luffy is in peak form as he warms up to fight Arlong, and after a brief respite, Arlong launches into his attacks, starting with a devastating bite in which Luffy hilariously blocks it by simply moving his own head out of the way by grabbing it. Which I gotta ask, how easy is it to pull this guy's limbs? I hate to see him get caught on something. But Luffy fights back, even at one point using swords, but ultimately laying Arlong out with a strong punch. Eventually, this will lead to Arlong having his teeth shattered, but in a surprising, sort of not surprising, he sheds and regrows his teeth like a shark, and does it again to use his teeth as a weapon, calling this tooth gum. This leads to Luffy kicking one of the sets of teeth from his hands and, putting it in his own mouth. This leads to Luffy on the offense as he tries to dodge Arlong's attack, even using concrete at one point, but also takes a super brutal hit to the abdomen as Arlong uses his teeth to bite into him. But even then, Luffy hits Arlong with a devastating forearm attack, knocking him to the ground. The battle at this point has been fierce and intense, but Arlong evens the odds by diving into the water and using his natural talents as a fisherman to apply even more devastating offense. Shark on darts, which is as it seems. He turns himself pretty much into a dart to fly at his enemies out of water. Even at one point pierces the ground, creating a hilarious visual. So to counter that, Luffy uses Gomu Gomu Shield in a battle of hilariously basic but accurate moves, goes 1-on-1. But in an upset, Luffy's shield wasn't able to stop it, though Luffy then uses Gomu Gomu Net, the perfect fish catching tool, to catch Arlong and stop his attack, followed up closely with Gomu Gomu Spear, sending his feet flying into Arlong's gut. This sends Arlong into a rage, so he punches into the walls and pulls out his gigantic sword called Kiribachi. Luffy is then launched up into Arlong's cartography room. There, Arlong mocks Luffy and the Straw Hats as he is incredulous, thinking they could never use Nami as effectively as he could, which the implication of sends Luffy into a rage when before he wasn't even able to move Kiribachi. Now he is able to crush it with his bare hands. And then Arlong says a couple very disturbing things. It turns out he sees Nami literally as nothing more than a pet to keep, to give her anything she wants, to keep her happy, but only so that they can keep her working on stuff just forever. But Luffy fights back, countering the notion that Nami is just a pet and that she spent 8 years working on her maps and that she deserves respect, to be treated not as an inferior human, but as an equal. Since, as Arlong says, they are crewmates, and Luffy believes all crewmates should be treated equally, something Arlong clearly has no interest in. All the while, Nami looks up in tears, thanking Luffy for the lengths he has gone to in this battle for her against Arlong. So, Luffy decides to destroy the cartography room, as this isn't a place that Nami belongs in anymore anyways. So, Luffy uses Gomu Gomu Battle Axe in one of the coolest and most spectacular moments of this fight, let alone chapter, drops the hammer and destroys the cartography room, negating Arlong's shark on darts in the process and sending him down several stories to the floor. From the rubble of Arlong Park rises Luffy as he has taken out Arlong, defeating him once and for all in one of the most hypest, amazing, and jaw-dropping fights I've seen in a shonen, at least in quite a while. He then calls out to Nami and declares that she is his new crewmate, and she responds, Got it. Absolutely one of the best feel-good moments in One Piece so far, and I had a smile from ear to ear reading this moment. Truly amazing. And from there, they get their payback on the corrupted Marines, taking out their frustrations on Nezumi and the 16th branch. And as the people of Kokoyashi village go to tell everyone of their liberation from Arlong, Nami visits her mother's grave once more. Nami asks Ginzo if Belmere would let her become a pirate, to which Nojiko believes she would, but Ginzo would not. But this prompts Ginzo to ask, would that stop Nami anyways? And she simply responds with that classic Nami with her tongue out look. Nope, not at all. Ladies and gentlemen, Arlong Park is quite easily the best arc of One Piece I have read so far. When people speak the praises of this arc, they are not lying. From beginning to end, I was riveted. And at some points, I was on the edge of my seat. Sometimes I even laughed. This arc had it all. It had everything I've loved about One Piece thus far, presented in perfect form. The focus on Nami was an amazing choice, and Arlong being her nemesis is quite easily one of the best choices for antagonists in this arc. I can't even really begin to describe how amazing this arc was overall, because there is just so much. But I think my favorite moments of the arc entirely is quite easily a tie between the fight between Luffy and Arlong, Nami asking Luffy for help, and of course the backstory for Nami. These three things had me on an emotional roller coaster, and while I'm sure you'll fill me in on things I missed that were also great from this arc, I believe these three moments encapsulate what makes this arc so great, and for me personally, so great. For the love of God, do yourself a favor, pick up One Piece. If you only watch my videos for fun, you have to watch and or read this arc. This is the Diamond is Unbreakable, the Frieza Saga, the Soul Society, the Return to Shiganshina arc. This is One Piece's version of those arcs. This is where One Piece truly starts to get it. So with that being said, where do I put it on my tier list? Well, this is quite easily right at the top. We're going S tier for Arlong Park, baby! I'm sure there will be better arcs than Arlong, but god damn it, this absolutely deserves an S tier. But our journey with the Straw Hats isn't done, as now they have been labeled enemies of the government by Nezumi and the Marines. Now Luffy is wanted dead or alive. The only thing left is to give him a magnum and set the bounty to 60 billion double dollars. But to celebrate, the Straw Hats party away, earning it after all they did to help set free Kokoyashi village and the surrounding islands. At Belmere's grave, we get a touching moment where Ginzo talks to her gravesite, mentioning how watching over her daughters every day is reminded of Belmere as if he's seeing her all again. Ginzo then vows to live to his fullest because their freedom came at the cost of many lives, and so in honor and in memory, they must live life to the fullest, laughing and smiling until their cheeks hurt. Which leads to Luffy coming in to give his deepest condiments to Belmere. But Ginzo then tells Luffy straight up, "You break my daughter's heart, I'll break your kneecaps." I mean, not exactly that, but he says that as if he ever steals away Nami's smile, he will personally come and kill him. Strong words, but it's words that Luffy understands. As this is happening, Nami goes to get the tattoo removed, but sadly can't, which is when she proposes something else, a different tattoo. One to match her sister's, Nojiko's tattoo. The next day, as the Going Merry set sail, Nami is nowhere to be seen, but just in the nick of time, Nami makes a dead sprint, clearing the gap and making it on the ship just in time. While doing so, she ends up pickpocketing him the whole in the process, showing that she's still a thief and just as mischievous as ever. Parting after all of this time, the spinner from Ginzo's hat is left at Nojiko's grave. The very same pinwheel that Ginzo used to cheer up Nami as a child, signaling that Belmere and Ginzo were the parental figures in Nami and Nojiko's childhood. This was a beautiful way to end Arlong Park, and it brought a legit tear to my eye, so much so my dad was wondering while I was typing away with tears rolling down my face. Weird moment indeed, but I can't help but admit that Arlong Park brought me to tears by the end. But I want to know, did Arlong Park bring you to tears? Do you think it's an S tier arc or something lower or maybe even higher? Let me know in the comments below, and as well become a patron to get access right now to my next 3 One Piece videos, Loguetown, Reverse Mountain, and Whiskey Peak. Links in the description and pinned comment below. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Next time, this and much more on the adventures of One Piece.